A story a day.
Are you ready for this?
This is September 12th.
September 12th, 1977. In South Africa, okay? This is during apartheid, in the heart of apartheid. Blacks cannot meet, cannot form a party, cannot do anything. Mandela's been in jail now since
Robben Island.
In Robben Island for like 17 years. The country is separate. You know, they live separately. Blacks live here, whites live here, Indians live here, coloreds live here.
Let me tell you.
Apartheid.
When I went to Cape Town, you know, I'd never seen these things. I was in Cape Town, my friend.
Yep. And you saw. You saw.
Do you know, I think there are black people in South Africa who cannot afford the life in Cape Town.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because they're expensive.
And the coloreds. What about the colors? You know, the mixed race people.
African. There's African. Okay.
And the way they drink. The way they resort to drinking and drugs, drugs. But that's a story for another day.
It's okay.
Okay, so that's September 1977, right?
1970.
Yeah. So let's fast forward a bit, just to put things in perspective, right? 1982, 83, my mom gives me a book to read.
Okay.
It's by a gentleman by the name of Donald Woods. Donald Woods was a white newspaper owner in South Africa. White, huh? During apartheid. He had written a book called Steve Biko.
Steve Biko.
Right?
A very famous name.
Very
famous name. Steve Biko is a very famous name.
Good. So Donald now is in the middle of it all in Prince Williamsburg in KwaZulu-Natal. You went to Durban, yeah?
KwaZulu-Natal, yeah.
Prince Williamsburg, where they have this daily newspaper.
And the papers are still stuck on the... You stick them
correct.
street.
And everybody reads.
And everybody.
So now he gets introduced to Steve Biko. And he's a liberal white guy. He's not conservative. He's liberal. And the relationship grows, and he learns from Steve. Steve shows him what it's like to be black in South Africa. This is a newspaper owner. So his whole thinking with his newspaper changes. And he says, oh my goodness, there's two South Africas here, one for the whites and one for the others. So his newspaper starts to change, and the authorities see this, and they start to harass him the same way they harass blacks. In the middle of it all, they find out that Steve Biko is like the most militant black leader there is out there, because Mandela's in jail, Walter Sisulu's in jail, Oliver Tambo's, they're all in jail. But Steve Biko is the only one outside. They ban him. And they used to ban people any way they want. They used to just ban people. You can't meet more than 2 people at a time. Hey, can you imagine? They banned Steve Biko. He would go to a football stadium, and as people are playing, he's talking to the people. And the authorities wouldn't know. So now he's banned. He can't travel. If he travels outside the province, he's arrested. One day he decides he needs to go to Cape Town from Prince Williamsburg, which is in KwaZulu-Natal. And he crosses the border and gets stopped by cops. And they ask him his name. And he says, Bantu Stephen Biko. He is bundled into a Land Rover, taken to the local sales. And Jalas, the way they treated that man after that, they tortured him. They beat him to a pulp. They completely dehumanized him. Until a doctor had to come and check, and he says, what are you people doing? And they said, we must drive this man or fly him to Pretoria, state capital, where he can get proper medical attention. Do you know they put him in the back of a Land Rover? More than 700 kilometers from Durban to Pretoria. 700 kilometers in the back of a Land Rover, and he's bumbling along the roads with his injuries. Needless to say, by the time he got to Pretoria, he was long dead. But from the tortures in Prince Williamsburg, and then the horrific ride. Of course, it's breaking news, and Donald Woods with his paper breaks the news: Stephen Biko has been killed, blah, 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 all that. That was on September 12th, 1977. Inquiry goes in. The state pathologist says, oh, he died of natural causes. Can you imagine? Apartheid South Africa. He died of natural causes. Of course, his funeral was a big deal. A lot of people, saying, let's fight, let's take to the streets, blah, blah, blah. By the way, this was a year after the Soweto uprisings of 1976.
Where the school kids were killed.
School kids were killed in Soweto, Johannesburg. So this is a year after Stephen Bantu Biko is now killed by police in custody. Now Donald Woods becomes a target because now he says, I'm going to expose these guys. I'm going to expose them. So he does that. He writes a book. He puts a manuscript together. But to get out is impossible. The authorities are looking out for him at the airport. They're looking out for him across the country. He cannot leave the country. What does he do? He drives all the way to Swaziland. Remember we talked about Swaziland being inside South Africa, but it's an independent country. Then even during apartheid, it was independence. He drives all the way to Swaziland, crosses the river with the book, with the manuscript, crosses the river, gets to the border as a priest. He disguises himself as a priest, gets to the border, crosses over to Swaziland, makes it to the British embassy because he was of British extraction, makes it to the British High Commission, and the Brits arrange for him to leave. But as they are taking, when his family joins him, as they're taking off from Mbabane, the South Africans want to find out who's in the plane. And they want to take it out because they could do that. They had the authority then. Take out a plane, no matter who's on it. The Swaziland High Commissioner decides to go with them on the plane. And when the South Africans ask who's on the plane, he says, these are diplomatic guests of the High Commissioner of Swaziland. And the plane was allowed to go. Made it to the UK, published his book, incredible book called Steve Biko by Donald Woods. And that was the basis of a movie called Cry Freedom, starring Denzel Washington. Yeah, you know that movie? Check it out. And then, of course, there's concerts during apartheid by people like Peter Gabriel and the likes about Stephen Biko. Incredible, very moving. But on this day, 1977, Stephen Biko was declared dead under police custody. All that is a story a day, Jalaz.
A story a day. Only on Hot 96.